Hey guys, it's Vans, back again with another Supercoach video. I would just first of all like to start this video off with a huge thanks to everyone that has subscribed to my channel. We have just gotten over 100 subs, and look, I didn't really set out any goals for this YouTube channel when I first made it. I sort of started making it for fun and putting out the content, and even though I didn't set goals, hitting 100 subs is still really cool. And maybe I will set some YouTube goals in future to continue growing the channel. But just a huge thanks to all those that have subscribed, and once again to all those that do just tune in and watch the videos. I do appreciate you just for being here, so thank you to all of you guys for enjoying my videos. Now you will notice that I do have a different setup today, different layout behind me. We are at my partner's, family's house. They have gone away to Sydney for the week, and we are going to house sit, so you might see his background again in the next video. But yeah, let's jump into the Supercoach and see how we went. So we had a pretty good week, as we can see. 2604, pretty big. Didn't actually really expect such a increase in rank from this. I knew I was having a big score in the sense of a 2600. I knew looking at my leagues that it was one of the biggest scores I'd seen. But I did think there wasn't too much variance in the top 1,000 rank when it came down to premium players, so I thought everyone would have a pretty similar score, and I didn't quite expect such a rank jump. So we did go up 234 places to 680, which is really cool. And as I said, just a bit unexpected. I guess our pods did fire. Keys isn't owned very heavily in the top 1%, and we obviously have him. Brayshaw didn't fire, and he's a bit more of a pod for us. Liberatore's another pod for us, and he did fire. And then Briggs didn't really fire either, who was a pod for us. Really unfortunate with Briggs as well. Very, very rough. He obviously gets two holding the balls at crunch moments in the game, and he was already at like 95 at three-quarter time, tracking for an easy 120, and then he actually went backwards in points because of these holding the balls. Like, he didn't really do much in the fourth quarter because it felt like Keith was doing more of the ruck work. I don't know if that was a choice from GWS or if it was just rotation wise. Briggs was maybe a bit gassed and he just needed that break. But Keith started taking over the ruck, then Briggs got into it last 5 minutes, and then all of a sudden two massive free kicks that just it would have lost him so many points. So unfortunately he went backwards in the fourth, and one of the free kicks, I don't know about you guys if you're watching this game, but he got a holding the man on Max Gawn that I just felt like was unbelievably rough. And look, that might be bias purely because I own Briggs, but I felt like he tackled Max Gawn. He's taking Max Gawn to ground, and as he's taking Max Gawn to ground, he tries to drop the ball in his boot. He doesn't even connect with the ball, and then Briggs gets a holding the man. Like, I feel like in the situation that I was looking at, it was most likely a no call. If there was any call made, it should have been a holding the ball for Max Gawn, who has dropped it and didn't even touch his boot. He's just, at the end of the day, he did make an attempt, I guess, but he did miss it. So, he's just dropped the ball. For Briggs to get punished for the holding the man in that situation, I just didn't see how he got a holding the man when Max Gawn's released the ball as he's falling to the ground in the tackle. Like, there was a lot more delayed tackles than that. Like, there was one point up in GWS's forward 50 where I swear it might have been Kelly, but there was like two GWF tackles in a row where it was very delayed, and they didn't get holding the man. But look, as I said, it might just be Supercoach bias there, but very rough considering that was right after the goal with 2 minutes left, where obviously Melbourne tried to mount the attack. So like the scaling on like that negative is massive, let alone if he got a holding the ball instead where it would have gone the other way. It's a bit rough there. But yeah, let's jump into the team, see how he went. Okay guys, just going to edit this one in here real quickly. I just want to add to the start of the video, just because that's when most viewers usually are part of it. Just if you do have any questions, make sure to leave them down below. I love doing Q&A stuff. I do always reply to all the comments as well. Any information or questions you have, leave them in the comments and I'll leave my opinion on the matter. But I'd love to get more of those to be able to do a second video maybe later in the week answering some Q&A questions at the end of the day. If not, then that's fine too. But yeah, I definitely appreciate anyone that leaves those comments, and I always get back to them. So yeah, definitely leave any comments that you have, guys, and we'll go from there. So I'll back to the video. Now, I guess not too much to really cover. Everyone it should be pretty close to full premium at this stage. As we know, I sort of finished my full premium last week. We had a lot of massive scores. We went with the VC Dunkley, which wasn't the wrong play. He had a 107 and 3/4. But obviously Neil would have been the better VC choice. I actually did this. Look, I sometimes do this thing where I wanted to change it to Neil all week. And then I realized, because I was out for dinner with mates and I started driving home and I realized I haven't changed it to Neil. I didn't even know when this game started. I'm like, man, is this game started yet? I don't know. And I'm like, you know what? If I get home and it hasn't started, I'll change it to Neil. And if it has, we'll just leave it at Dunkley. And I got back and it had started at that stage, so obviously it's just stuck on Dunkley. But, sometimes I leave it a little bit up to fates there, where it's like 50-50 call. Where I'm like, look, either one's pretty good here, so we'll do a bit of a toss of the coin, depending on what happens. I did, as I said, I more or less wanted Neil earlier in the week, as I sort of convinced myself that Neil is a higher variance player. He's more likely to get a lower score than Dunkley, closer to like last week where he got like that 114, which you wouldn't take as the captain score. And then Dunkley's much more likely to get a 120 as a minimum. It feels like at the moment, which is kind of a bait of a captain score. At least that's how it felt in this week, where there was so many good captain options that it felt like if Dunkley got this 125, we would be forced to take it when there is potentially better options out there. So I wanted to go for Neil, a more variance player, to try and, I guess, solidify that yes or no on the VC. Obviously, as we said, Dunkley comes off 3/4 time. Apparently it's nothing, so nothing to worry about there. If anything, a good decision by Brisbane to rest an absolute superstar like Dunkley in a situation where he could potentially hurt himself much more if he was to play through, but it was apparently just a corky, so nothing to worry about there. Unfortunately, we obviously go for the Bont C, which... look, I always say with Bont, you're guaranteed a 110 minimum as a captain score, so it's at least a safe option. But it does feel a bit rough here when there's so many other good options that came out. That's the thing, we're full premium at this stage, so we have a lot of these high-quality players. And it's just about naming which one's going to go off on which week. And obviously we had Dacos 140 plus, Stewart 140 plus, Merritt 160 plus. And then we had a lot of 124. So Rosie also 140 plus. And then, 120 plus from Gordon, 120 plus from Keys, 120 plus from Liberatore, 120 plus from Petrarca. We had a lot of good scores out there. So that's why it's a little unfortunate to have gotten Bont's score. But look, a lot of people got Neil's score. It's 30 more points. 30 points is nice. It's not the end of the world. And we all make the wrong captain choices time to time. Now, I'm not going to go over everything that's happened in this week. I guess a few key points here. Everyone has the top 3 defenders there, so I won't even bother with them. Sinclair was a bit lucky in his instance. He took attention early, didn't have a good first half in that sense. Good Supercoach first half, but then third quarter pieced it together, had a massive third quarter that really got him back in the game, like 50 points honestly in that third quarter, and then managed to get onto a 116. So pretty happy with that result. Day, super disappointing on the 65. He had such a big game last week in this hybrid, playing midfield, a lot of CBAs, and then rotating into the loose defender that was getting all the intercept marks role that he did sort of last week. And it just didn't work this week, unfortunately. Carlton haven't been the greatest, so that's... Honestly, when we see Melican's 85 as an emergency, my plan was to put Constable on and put Sheasel on the bench and just play Melican's 85 over Sheasel. Adelaide are a team that do beat up on these lower tier teams, and I did think Sheasel wouldn't have the greatest game. Once again, it was just one of those things where I don't know, my brain just wasn't on this week, and I planned on doing that. And then next thing I know, I see the game started, and I'm like, I never switched them. That's really annoying. Hopefully Sheasel can pull it out. And look, he gets a 79. I think Sheasel's floor is quite high. We only lose 6 points on me not making that decision, but 85 is pretty good. Apparently it should have been for Day over Sheasel specifically. But yeah, just something that I did there that was a bit silly. But yeah, Sheasel gets an 89 in a game where Adelaide really beat them up. He had a really bad first half and managed to get a bit more involved in the second half when Adelaide sort of ran away with it, even though North put up a bit of a fight early. And then, yeah, as I mentioned, Day just didn't really get it together. And this is the problem that I'm a little bit scared of moving forward here, is that I plan on looping Day and Sheasel, and it's like whoever has a big game. Hopefully, if they're the emergency, they have the big game, and I can just put them on field. If they have a down game, the other one can go on and outperform that. This is just one of those weeks where I probably would have put Day on field over Sheasel if I saw that 79, and then I would have lost some points. And that's, I guess, the scary thing with these two, that maybe the variance is a bit higher than expected. Like, that's a much lower floor than I want to see from Will Day. I mean, obviously, he got the 140 last week, so he can't be too disappointed with that. But, like, I don't want to see a 65 moving forward. It's going to be very, very scary to get that at the run home when everyone else is full premium and they're not swinging two players like Day and Sheasel. It did make me think in my head, I've got 150k here. I mean, obviously hindsight's 2020. I know Chris was very big on Houston. Chris from Supercoach Insider, that is. He was very big on Houston, and I hope he got him in this week because he would have got some great dividends from that. He had a beautiful game and kicks that goal off to the siren from massive scaling, and he was only about 100k more than Sheasel. I could have moved Sheasel up and then hold 50k, but I think in the situation I am in, that would then compromise me getting a Sicily. And I think I want that more with the Day and Sheasel loop. It's just, I guess it's one of these weeks where it's a very down week from these two, and it's very disappointing. But I think the strategy I have in mind is still a good strategy. Now, midfield, a lot of people fired. Merritt with a massive game. Track's a bit unfortunate in the sense that he kicked 4 behinds in the first quarter. Oh my goodness. His efficiency was insanely bad. I think of his first 7 disposals, he had 22% efficiency. It might have been more than that because he's kicked 4 behinds, which means 4 behinds, like that, they go, that's technically efficient for the 4 behinds. So it might have been like 13 or something disposals. I remember them saying it, making the comment. I'm not too sure what it was exactly, but his efficiency, he had the butcher symbol on him on Fan Footy. He was a mess with the ball, but still got to a 128. Like, I understand it's a wet game, but if he's just a little bit more cleaner, maybe slots one of those goals early, he's pushing a massive score, which would have been pretty cool because he's one of our bigger pods in the top 1%. So, yeah, a bit unfortunate there. Laird had a down game, but everyone really owns him. It's unfortunate I've only just brought him in, and we got decent score last week and then the 80 this week, and he hasn't had an 80 in a very long time, so it's unfortunate we've brought him in to get one of his worst games. In a game where Adelaide pumped, and I thought Laird was a bit more of a downhill skier for Adelaide, but I guess maybe not. Yeah, as I mentioned, Libra, another pod for us, did really well. He was someone I considered as a captain option, but Bont's just so safe. Libra actually last time against Freo also went really big, and it did feel like this time they might put a potential into Bont as to why Libra could be better. But I decided not to take that risk because it's hard to go past Bont when they're in the same team, honestly. Brayshaw, a down game, as I mentioned, another pod for us, so a little bit unfortunate for him to just have such a bad game. And Sorongo's so big as well. Sorongo with the 138, and he's someone that obviously we don't have, so the anti-pod there, once again, that's another reason why I thought I wasn't going to do that well this week. I thought more people were on Sarong, and I thought I was going to get a bit more punished for that. Tom Green, great game. So many disposals in the wet. I think he had like 38, but only a 128. It's a lot of disposals for, honestly, like, it's a good score, but he really needs to just get so many disposals to get a good Supercoach score. So that's why it's a bit hard for him to sustain that constantly, but yeah, we'll take it. Briggs, as I already mentioned, with the 87, which is really rough. His first game below a ton. Just unfortunate. He really should have been able to get to the ton, but just the 2 free kicks at the end. So unfortunate. Marshall, I know a lot of people looking at Marshall for the captain option, which they would have really got punished at here. I know a lot of all the Supercoach Insider boys, Ben and Chris, were talking about Marshall as the C if their VC was to fail. Speaking of which, Saints almost get upset by West Coast, which would have been funny as hell. I forgot who they were looking at their VC. It might have been Dawson or Laird, and they might have rolled the dice with Marshall, which looked technically better than either of those two, but not a great score overall. So another reason why maybe we did do well. I know a lot of people probably captained Laird because of their Dunkley VC not going well. A few people I know were going for Marshall as well. So Bont did outperform, I guess, a lot of other captains that people were looking at. I guess the smoky captains as Dacos and Stewart. would have been really good. Obviously, Merritt I think was a bit more random than those two, a bit more unpredictable. And then the forward line, Timmy Taranto with his first down game in a long time, and honestly a massive pod for us down here. Obviously our forward line fires in all cylinders outside of Timmy, but everyone owns Timmy, so that's not really a problem. But the Keys 124 is massive. Him in our team, we've had him in our team for 3 weeks now, and his 3-round average is 119. That is mental. Even his 5-round average 113. Like 120 in our team is so good, and that's, like, as I said, he's a pod for us in the top 1%, and that's another reason why we're probably gaining a lot of ground. People would have gone Darcy Cameron, who didn't have a great game this week. They would have gone for Himmelberg, who once again only had like an 80 something, so it's been pretty sub-average. So Key's just been a massive one for us, so that's been really cool on that front. Look, something else I wanted to bring up. I did want to bring this up at the start of the video. I might actually edit it in afterwards, just because I want that talking point at the start of the video, because I feel like that's when most people do happen to watch. So I'll worry about that later. But captains this week. Obviously, we're not trading. We're holding one more round. Melican and Johnson going to Sicily. Now, in regards to money-wise, to get Melican would go down. Right now, bank us 145k. That would push us to 300k in the bank and would be about 30k off Sicily. So Melican and Johnson this week need to make us another 30k to get Sicily next week. So another really good reason that honestly Melican had this massive score, because he puts that break even down, and look, he's going to earn massive amounts of money after the week we get him, to get rid of him. But honestly, we just want him for Sicily. He's our last upgrade. It doesn't really matter what money what about him accruing more money after that. We want the points. So yeah, Sicily a week away, which is going to be cool. Now looking at captains here, I mean, look, Goulden's had 2 back-to-back great weeks, and he is going into Richmond, who give up points in the midfield, but not what I'm going to go for. Oh, Dogs versus Collingwood. Honestly, a bit of a hard one there too, because Collingwood are really good at restricting Supercoach points. We eat up a lot of the pie, but Dogs also being a massive Supercoach pie hog, so that's a bit of a hard one. Oh my goodness, I guess this is the one right there. God, it's too easy. I don't even want to say not Dunkley, but I want to say Neil is actually the maybe better option here. I think he'll beat up a bit better on the West Coast side. Maybe. Will they send the tag to him from, I think O'Neill was doing tagging from them. Will they send O'Neill to Dunkley? Sorry, to Neil? And Dunkley, he's pretty untaggable. Okay, so Brisbane's obviously a superb option for captain choices. I don't know about anyone in this Thursday-Friday game. GWS, not liking that. St Kilda do give up a lot of points. They do give up so many points. Track could be a shout there. If Oliver's back there, maybe not. Geelong, could Stewart be a C for us? Oh, and Essendon and Adelaide, these are hard games to back. Honestly, it feels pretty hard to go past the Brisbane West Coast game, and that's almost a much safer C than I think anywhere else at this point. I'm thinking maybe I back in Stewart here. North have been putting up a pretty good fight overall, in my opinion. They're not just getting beaten down like West Coast. They put a bit of a fight in for the majority of the game. Seeing that their entries into their forward half aren't the greatest, I feel like they do give up a lot of points to defenders. And there's a good chance Stewart just absolutely feasts in this game. I think it should say what they're... So, yeah, they're 15th for giving up points to defenders. Last year didn't have a great one on them. Where are they playing at too? Oh yeah, they are playing at GMHBA. Yeah, no, I think I'm actually pretty happy with Stewart here. Maybe that's greedy of me. Maybe there is just better options in these earlier games, but I think Stewart could honestly be the shout. And then I don't know, Dunkley after his Corky. I'm hoping it was as simple as a Corky. I think if they play Dunkley, because as you know, they subbed him off for a reason. They're clearly not going to risk him if he's at risk at all. So if he plays, he's going to be 100%. So I think maybe it's just so hard to look past Dunkley ever. Dunkley does also float forward and kick goals more often as well, but there is a chance that the whole Brisbane team just beat up on West Coast so badly that the points are spread. Danaher ends up eating a lot because he kicks a bunch of goals. McCluggage gets involved. Ashcroft gets involved, and that could restrict Neil and Dunkley from getting really big scores in those games. Yeah, definitely could. Collingwood don't tag. And I don't know if we have anyone that runs with Bont really well. I don't know if we have anyone to pig like Libba. Maybe I could look at a doggy. Yeah, well look, as we said, there's plenty of premiums to choose from. I think the very obvious shout is potentially a Brisbane game. I might actually look at Bont here personally. And then I'm maybe being a bit greedy again, but going for Stewart and GBHBA as a backup. So hopefully we don't need that, but that is the option there. So yeah, thanks for tuning into the video, guys. I guess it dragged on a little bit longer than needs to be at this stage. I didn't really go over player by player, but I still talked plenty, so it's just what I do. Sorry about that, but to those that just like to listen to Supercoach talk, I hope this helped. As I mentioned, I'm going to mention at the start of the video, I'm going to do a little snippet there, but I'll add it here anyway. Just add your Q&As, add your questions, talk to me as to what options you're looking for. I mean, there's obviously plenty of cheap options around the 400k mark. You have things like Mills, Steele's pretty cheap, Cripps is pretty cheap. Keys has gotten to a pretty expensive point where it does get a bit hard to get on him. You almost need like 100k more from one of those players, which, yeah, look, as I said, I love Q&A questions, so hit me out with questions, and if I have enough, maybe I'll do some Q&A for it. If not, I'll just, I'll always reply to the comments that are left, so make sure to leave those behind. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, everyone. Really appreciate it. Peace. Later.